I'm down here in the basement loading 4570 for my 1895 Marlin. Pardon the chew on my lip, but I do that. I'm loading these 325 grain FTX bullets from Hornady. And the thing about these bullets, they have this soft polymer tip on there so I can use them in a tubular magazine without worrying about setting off the primer and the cartridge in front of it in the magazine tube. Possible that if this was a hard tip resting against the primer in front of it, the recoil of the rifle could set that primer off. Not a super big possibility, but it is a possibility, and it would have catastrophic circumstances since my hand is right next to the tube. Now here's the thing about this bullet. If I load this bullet into a regular case, that's not a regular case, this is a regular case, a regular 4570 case, trimmed to its regular length, okay, it's too long to feed through the 1895's magazine. What it'll do is it'll come back and it'll jam up and won't lift up into the chamber. So I have to reduce the chamber, reduce the case length. So therefore I reduce the overall length of the round to a maximum of 2.55 inches. Step off camera 1 minute. So I've heard a lot of people comment, I've seen on the internet, I've seen a lot of people comment that, oh, I don't want to use that, you know, have brass that's cut shorter than brass I use for other bullets, and, you know, buy 50 or 100 casings and commit them to this. All you got to do is keep them segregated. And if they're not segregated, all you have to do is stand them on end. You can see which one's shorter. So I have to take this case and trim it down to 2.040 inches. Now, what that requires is a whole nother problem here. When I trim this case down to 2.04 inches, 2.04 inches, which is there, 2.04 inches, okay? When I do that, it goes into my dies, and it barely makes the expander die. I need to expand this mouth so it will take this bullet. You see, it won't slide in there now. It won't slide in there now, as I need a little tiny bit of flare here to let the bullet start into the case. The dies are too short. The one die, the flaring die, I have a Lee flaring die, just barely flares this shortened case enough to start the bullet. And I mean just barely. But the seating die, see, when I put this bullet in here, you see this groove on the bullet? That's called a crimp groove. Okay? When I put this in there, I need to crimp the case down into that groove. Just not a lot, just a little bit. Because otherwise, when it's in there, it's in the magazine tube, under recoil, that bullet will move out. It'll migrate forward because it's getting jerked out. Okay. So I have to take I took a die, which I used my RCBS die, and I just went out on a bandsaw. Everybody's making a big deal that you have to take your die to the machinist. Well, the thing of it is, that die, the bottom of that die doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have to touch the shell hole. Okay? You just have to know how to adjust it. So I took my die out to my belt sander, and I just took off several thousandths off the bottom of the die, and now it crimps fine. The thing about this bullet is, and the reason it makes it worthwhile to go through the trouble of shortening all these cases and trimming that much brass off a lot of cases, it takes some time. But to shorten the cases, This bullet is absolutely devastating on a deer. I mean, this thing, you don't want to shoot the deer in the meat because this thing will tear the meat up. Okay? I shot a doe with this at about, I don't know, I guess she was probably 40 yards away, and she was facing me, and I hit her in the point of the shoulder, like this. That bullet went into the point of the shoulder, traversed her chest cavity, absolutely destroyed her chest cavity, and the bullet was later found in her right hip. So we're talking about 3.5 feet of penetration. And the deer took one hop, and she was done. Now when I picked the deer up, I knew the line the bullet should have been flying on. I could see a hole at the base of her sternum. And I was thinking, well, that bullet turned and dove out the hole of her sternum. But I gave that deer away to a friend of mine who, he could use the meat. And he found a bullet in her hip. I didn't get the bullet back. I wish I'd got that bullet back. But anyway, he found a bullet in her hip. So that which projected out the bottom of her sternum had to be bone fragments. Now understand, when it entered her right side and went down, it destroyed every rib, every single rib on that side of her body. It just pulverized them. Okay, destroyed her whole lung cavity, heart, everything. This bullet's where it's at. Okay. Now I drive this bullet at trapdoor levels, which is the lower pressure levels of a 45-70. Where I hunt in Perry County, I don't need to do any more than that. I mean, if I get a 60-yard shot or a 70-yard shot, that's an exceptional distance because it's in the woods. I mean, I could come up with 100 plus, but I can hit with 100. I can hit 150 yards with this thing without taking the scope reticle off the deer. My gun is zeroed for 150 yards. Works fine at 100 because it's only like 1.5 inches, 2 inches high at 100, so it's not going to cause a miss. But this bullet is absolutely devastating. Unfortunately, they're $32 for 50 of these, so I don't shoot a lot of them. I do a little bit of zero my rifle in and all that, and they pretty much don't shoot a lot of these. But I love that bullet. I really do. You know, hard to find sometimes. You know, the guy that I gave the deer to, Pat Hottenrod, I think he'll attest to how devastating that bullet is, because he cleaned that, he skinned that deer out. So I think he can tell you how devastating this bullet is. And now I could push this bullet. Right now I'm shooting this bullet with a book velocity of about 1950 feet per second, which is fine. It does everything I ask it to do. Okay, I don't need to hit him harder, and I don't need to beat myself up more just to make it faster. Well, trapdoor level loads are lower pressure. They're made so that if you put the round in something, a trapdoor, Springfield trapdoor rifle, which was kind of a weak action, or a Remington rolling block, which is stronger than a trapdoor, but still not up to where the Marlin is. I can put it in a Marlin, which is higher pressure. If I run it to that pressure, and it'll shoot flatter, it'll hit harder. We get into redundancy. Okay, it doesn't really matter that it hit harder and had more energy when it came out the other side. It doesn't really matter. Once it gets to the other side, it's done. Or I could push it up to the high pressure, which is, I would use in something like a Ruger number 1 or something like that. I don't have a Ruger number 1. I don't have a bolt action Siamese Mauser in 45-70 here. I have a Marlin lever action. And the other reason that I picked that is because I also have a Rossi lever action, a Rossi Rio Grande. Now, the Marlin 1895 is a very robust lever action rifle. It has a heavy receiver on it. The Rossi Rio Grande is built on a Marlin 336 action, which is a little smaller action, not quite as beefy as the 1895. So I did some calculations, and normally that Marlin would be the Marlin 336 would be chambered in around like 30-30. So I did some calculations considering the pressure and the bolt thrust. What that means is when it's fired, the amount of pressure that's coming back on the bolt of the gun, and therefore on the locking lug of the gun, which is a single lug that comes up and locks into the receiver. I figured the head pressure on this told me I need to probably stay with a trapdoor load. Might could go up a little bit, but not the full 1895 load. There are guys that do that. That'll push that Rossi up to 1895 load. I don't think it's really wise. I just don't. So, that's my project. I'm going to put 50 of these together. I'm going to go out and check the zeros on 2 rifles. I'll probably fire 5 rounds each rifle. Then I'll come back here, resize those cases again, and reload them. Those 10 or 20 rounds, whatever I got. And reload them, and then I'll have 50 rounds set aside for deer hunting. 50 rounds for deer hunting. I'm figuring 2 rifles. I'm going to carry one. Presumably Tommy Thompson is going to carry one. I'm going to carry my Rossi. 50 rounds will last a long time. I mean, you're not going out there and doing the Blazing Saddles thing. Okay, you're not bang, 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 bang. If you are, you're missing. Save your ammo. For that round, you know, if you don't go down the first round, maybe the second round, if you don't hit him, he's gone. So that 50 rounds, minus what I check the zeros on the rifle with every year, will last a very long time. And I bought 150 of these bullets. Okay, literally, if I don't go out and blow them up on the range, 150 bullets will last me the rest of my life. I'm 58 years old, okay? I shoot, when I'm hunting, I may shoot 2 or 3 bullets a year. Add that up, lasts a long time. Okay, I'm done jabbering. I gotta get back to trimming these cases by hand. That's the hard part. It's the part I hate about reloading most, is when I have to use this hand trimmer. I can't find the shell plate for my power trimmer, so I have to use a hand trimmer. That means I get to do crank, 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 crank. And that gets old. So I come down here and I do 10 to 15 rounds, and then I go up. Okay, and there's no big, clock's not running on this job. So, alright, have a good day.